Chosen one, before you leave, notice the exact reason you want to leave, not the dramatic reason, the ordinary one. Maybe part of you already thinks you have heard this before. Maybe your hand almost moved towards something else. Maybe one quiet thought said, "Later." That reaction matters more than you think, because this may not be the first place it appears. Think about the conversation you knew you needed to have and postponed. Think about the idea that felt alive for 3 days, then disappeared. Think about the step you almost took, until ordinary noise became louder than your own conviction. Different moments, same ending. You reached the threshold, and something pulled you away. If this title speaks to you, think of those moments as 4 knocks. Not 4 events I can prove heaven counted. 4 moments when something important reached your attention, but never became action. And that is why the 5th time is different. This time, the pattern is becoming visible while it is happening. There is a name for the reflex that makes people withdraw when an insight becomes personal. There is also a name for the gap between hearing something clearly and holding it long enough to act. Before this message ends, you will understand both. You will see what the 4 knocks may represent. You will see why the receiver can matter as much as the message. And you will see one simple way to interrupt the pattern before it decides for you again. So do not force yourself to believe anything yet. Just observe yourself. Stay here long enough to notice what happens inside you. If you can do that, say it quietly with me. I hear the knock. The first knock may have looked like distraction. You felt something land, something unusually precise. Then your phone lit up. Another thought arrived. A small task suddenly felt urgent, and the moment was gone before you noticed what happened. You did not reject anything. You simply moved. The second knock may have looked like exhaustion. You understood enough to feel that something mattered, but your body was tired and your mind was crowded. You told yourself you would return tomorrow. Tomorrow became another day, then another week, and what once felt vivid slowly became distant. The third knock may have sounded like doubt. Maybe I am reading too much into this. Maybe I am imagining it. Maybe this is not for me. Doubt can be useful when it helps you test what is true, but sometimes it appears when a truth begins asking something uncomfortable from you. Then came the 4th knock. This one was harder to recognize because it sounded intelligent. I already know this. You had heard the language before. You knew the lesson. You could almost predict the next sentence, so your attention stepped away before the message could reach your behavior. 4 different reasons, 4 different moments. But look closer. Distraction, exhaustion, doubt, familiarity. They do not look the same, yet each one can appear at the same location. The threshold between recognizing something and allowing it to change what you do. This is what I call the sacred exit reflex. It is not proof that you are lazy. It is not proof that you lack faith. It is a pattern of withdrawal that can appear when staying present would require discomfort, uncertainty, or action. The mind often prefers what is familiar, even when familiar is costing you something. That is why the reflex hides so well. It rarely announces itself as resistance. It may sound practical. Check that message first. Think about this later. Get more information. Wait until you have more energy. None of those thoughts are always wrong, but repetition can reveal what one moment hides. Think about your own life now. Where do you keep reaching the same edge? A conversation, a decision, a project, a boundary, a prayer that keeps leading toward the same next step. You do not need to judge yourself. You only need to recognize whether the exit keeps appearing before movement. Here is the first tool. The next time you feel the urge to leave something meaningful, do not promise yourself an hour. Give yourself 10 seconds. 10 quiet seconds before you obey the impulse. Then ask one question. What became uncomfortable 1 second before I wanted to leave? Do not search for a dramatic answer. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe it was fear of being wrong. Maybe the next step would cost time, pride, comfort, or certainty. The goal is not to force yourself forward. The goal is to see the trigger before the reflex becomes a decision. That tiny pause changes the sequence. Before, the urge appeared and you followed it. Now the urge appears and you notice it. That space may be only 10 seconds, but inside it, something important returns. Choice. You are no longer treating every interruption as an instruction. If you can see one place where this pattern has been operating, say it now. I see the pattern. Do not say it as a promise that you will never hesitate again. Say it because hesitation no longer has to remain invisible. And now we reach the harder question. Why can something feel clear in the morning, then almost disappear by the afternoon? Why can you receive an insight, believe it, write it down, and still lose contact with it when ordinary life returns? The answer is not only about the message. Sometimes, the condition of the receiver matters too. So, what is the receiver? It is the state you are in when something important reaches you. Your attention, your energy, your ability to stay with one thought long enough to understand it. A message can matter deeply, but if your inner world is scattered, even something valuable can arrive in pieces. You may know this feeling. You read the same paragraph twice. You begin to pray, then notice unrelated thoughts competing for attention. You have a good idea in the morning, but by afternoon another demand has taken its place. That does not automatically mean your faith is weak. It does not automatically mean you are lazy. And it does not automatically mean God has gone silent. There is another possibility worth examining. Sometimes the message is not the only variable. Sometimes the receiver is under strain. I call this the receiver gap. It is the distance between hearing something and being able to hold it, process it, and carry it into action. You can recognize a truth in seconds, but integration takes attention. When attention is constantly divided, recognition can feel powerful without becoming stable. Think about a radio for a moment. If a station is broadcasting but the connection is full of static, you do not immediately conclude that no signal exists. You check the receiver too. The analogy is simple. Both can matter at the same time. You can pray and still be tired. You can believe and still be overloaded. You can care deeply and still have attention pulled in many directions. This is not an accusation. It is a more useful question. What condition am I in while I am trying to receive what matters? Try a quick check now. Notice your jaw. Is it tight? Notice your shoulders. Are they raised? Notice your breathing. Is it shallow or rushed? Notice how quickly your thoughts are moving. Then notice whether part of you wants to reach for your phone before this sentence is finished. Do not fix anything yet. Just observe. Awareness gives you information. If your body is tense and your attention is fragmented, that does not tell you what God is saying. It tells you something about the condition in which you are trying to listen. Now, imagine a different morning. You wake up and your mind is not immediately pulled into 15 competing directions. You do not become superhuman. You simply feel clear enough to identify the one thing that matters most today and present enough to stay with it longer. Imagine carrying that state into prayer, work, or one difficult decision. Instead of searching for 10 more signs, you sit with what you already know. Instead of losing the thread every few minutes, you return to it. That is not a promise of perfection. It is a picture of less fragmentation. Maybe what you need is not another louder message. Maybe part of the work is becoming more available to the message already in front of you. That changes the question from why am I not hearing to how am I receiving? If that question feels true for you, say this quietly. I am ready to receive. Not because the words create a miracle. Say them because they mark a decision to notice your state before you blame yourself, the message, or the silence. There is one more layer I have not opened yet. Researchers have long studied how different parts of the brain process information, including specialization between the two hemispheres. That does not prove any spiritual claim, but it does raise a practical question about integration and attention. The product material behind a tool we will examine later describes an auditory approach built around supporting a more synchronized mental state. I will separate the background research from what the product itself claims. For now, keep only one question. What if part of the problem is not only what you are trying to hear, but the state of the brain trying to receive it? Hold that thought. The next trap begins with 4 dangerous words. I already know this. Those 4 words can feel harmless. I already know this, but familiarity can become one of the quietest ways to leave before a truth reaches your behavior. You hear a phrase you recognize, and your mind decides the value has already been received. You know the language. Trust God. Release fear. Stop overthinking. Follow what is true. You may have heard those ideas for years, but knowing the sentence is not the same as living the sentence when something real is at stake. This is what I call the familiarity trap. Recognition creates a feeling of completion. The mind says, I know where this is going. Then attention drops before the message reaches the place where change is required. The lesson feels old, even when the application is still unfinished. Think of one truth you believe you already know. Maybe you know fear should not lead you. Maybe you know your time matters. Maybe you know one relationship needs a boundary. Now, ask a different question. Where is the opposite still visible in my behavior? Look at your calendar. Look at your spending. Look at your conversations. Look at the decision you keep postponing. The answer may not appear in what you say you believe. It may appear in the pattern you repeat when pressure arrives. You may even notice how sophisticated the trap becomes. Instead of saying no, you collect one more message. Instead of refusing the truth, you save it for later. You highlight it, share it, or agree with it. And agreement creates the sensation that movement has already begun. But agreement is not movement. A saved message cannot make the phone call for you. A journal page cannot set the boundary for you. A powerful morning cannot choose your afternoon for you. At some point, truth has to cross from language into behavior. This is where a simple inventory can help. Choose one truth you have repeated for more than a month. Then identify one visible behavior that would exist if you were fully practicing it. If that behavior is missing, you have found the gap without needing another explanation. This is why experienced spiritual listeners can become harder to reach. Not because they are less sincere, they have more language available. Familiar words can make the mind feel ahead of the message, while the deeper application is still waiting behind the next sentence. Peter heard truth close to the source, yet fear still shaped some of his actions. Proximity to wisdom did not remove the struggle to embody it. Knowing can prepare you, but knowing cannot replace practice. So test familiarity instead of trusting it. The next time you hear something and think, I know this already, do not argue with yourself. Ask one question. Where is this still not true in the way I live? That question turns repetition into diagnosis. Maybe the truth is familiar because life is giving you another chance to practice it. Maybe the lesson returned because your vocabulary changed faster than your habits. Either way, you gain something more useful than another moment of recognition. And if this part feels uncomfortably accurate, that is not a reason to shame yourself. It is a reason to become specific. Name one place where your actions still disagree with what your mind already knows. One place is enough. If this helped you see that difference, keep the thought with you. Recognition is not integration. And now we come to the place where many people stop, even after they understand the pattern, the receiver, and the truth itself. It is not the first mile. It is not the middle. It is the final inch between knowing and acting. The final inch has a strange shape. It often looks like preparation. You research one more option. You pray for one more confirmation. You adjust the plan again. You tell yourself you will begin when the timing feels cleaner. None of those actions are always wrong. Preparation matters. Discernment matters, rest matters, but a useful action can become avoidance when it keeps replacing the same step you already know you need to take. This is what I call final inch resistance. You have done enough work to see the direction, but you keep asking for a level of certainty that action cannot give you in advance. The problem is no longer lack of information. The problem is the final movement. Maybe you are not waiting for clarity anymore. Maybe you are waiting for discomfort to disappear. That is a different request. Meaningful action often carries uncertainty with it, because moving forward means leaving the protection of what is familiar. Look at the pattern. One more article, one more prayer, one more video, one more Monday, one more promise that you will start when life calms down. Preparation can feel responsible, but it can also become a socially acceptable way to avoid participation. This does not mean you should rush into every decision. It means you should notice when new information is no longer changing the decision. If the answer stays the same after every round of research, more research may not be the missing piece. Here is the second tool. I call it the 1-inch rule. Choose one action that takes less than 8 minutes and moves you toward what you already know matters. Make it small enough that you cannot hide behind the size of the task. Send the message, open the document, put the appointment on the calendar, write the first 3 lines, remove one distraction, name the boundary clearly. The goal is not to finish the journey. The goal is to cross the threshold. Picture a line on the floor in front of you. On one side is endless preparation. On the other side is participation. You do not need to leap. You only need one honest step that proves your behavior is now allowed to agree with what you say you know. Think of one opportunity in your life. An email arrives, a door opens, a conversation becomes possible. The old pattern would spend 3 days asking whether this is the perfect moment. The new pattern pauses, discerns, chooses, and takes one measured step. You are not abandoning wisdom. You are changing the order. Discern first, then act. Do not discern forever. There is a moment when asking for more certainty stops protecting you and starts protecting the pattern that keeps you still. If you can name your 1 inch, say this with intention. I cross the threshold. You are not promising a perfect outcome. You are choosing not to let the absence of perfect certainty make every decision for you. And now, something important becomes clear. You can understand the sacred exit reflex. You can recognize the receiver gap. You can escape the familiarity trap. You can name final inch resistance. But understanding these patterns does not automatically change the condition from which you receive. That is the open loop we left earlier. What if your mind is simply too fragmented to use what you now understand? Before we move forward, we need to separate the message, the receiver, and the tool that may support the receiver. I want to close the loop we opened earlier. I told you there was research connected to the question of how the brain receives and integrates information. I waited until now, because a solution only makes sense after you understand the problem it is meant to address. You now know the shape of that problem. Fragmentation can lead to withdrawal. Withdrawal can prevent integration. Then the lack of integration sends you searching for more information, and the cycle begins again. The missing piece is not always another message. Sometimes it is support for the receiver. Here is the simple framework. Notice the exit reflex. Stay for 10 seconds. Receive one truth without adding 10 more. Then act 1 inch. Notice. Stay. Receive. Act. The goal is not to become a different person. It is to become the receiver who stays long enough to choose. Now, we can talk about the research carefully. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1981 for work that included discoveries about functional specialization in the cerebral hemispheres. That research does not prove the effectiveness of any product we are about to discuss. The product material uses that scientific background to explain its own approach. It describes a method intended to support more integrated processing through an auditory sequence. That is the product claim, not a conclusion that follows automatically from Sperry's Nobel Prize. Before I name the tool, consider two experiences described in the seller's material. A woman from California said she had tried prayer, journaling, and meditation while still feeling disconnected. According to that testimonial, after using the audio consistently, she felt clearer and more connected to her inner guidance. A man from Texas described a different struggle. His problem was persistent mental fog and decision fatigue. According to the seller's testimonial, regular use was followed by a stronger sense of clarity and easier decision-making. These are personal reports, not guarantees of what another person will experience. The tool is called the Genius Switch. It is a digital auditory sequence designed to be used for 8 minutes a day with headphones and closed eyes. The seller describes its mechanism as neural sync technology, intended to support coordination between the two hemispheres. The seller positions it differently from generic soundtracks or meditation apps. The process is simple. Put on headphones, close your eyes, listen for 8 minutes, then continue with your day. This is not for someone looking for a magical substitute for discernment. It may be worth examining for the person who has already recognized that more information is not always the answer and who wants a simple daily structure that may support a clearer receiving state. Now the practical details. The product material lists a regular price of $49, with the current offer page described as $39. It also lists lifetime digital access and 4 bonuses included with the purchase. The 4 bonuses include a guided visualization, a grocery guide, a classic manifestation book, and a printable 5 habits guide. The seller also states that the purchase has a money-back guarantee under the terms on its page. Notice what I am not saying. I am not telling you that 8 minutes guarantees clarity. I am not telling you that buying anything makes you more spiritual. I am saying there is a tool whose seller presents it as support for the exact receiver problem we have been discussing. The decision belongs with you. Read the page, examine the claims and terms, decide whether the mechanism and daily use make sense for you. The official resource is linked in the description and the pinned comment. There is no need for manufactured pressure. The real cost of waiting is simpler. Every week you leave the same pattern unexamined. That pattern gets another week of repetition. If you choose a tool, use it because it supports a change you are already willing to practice. The tool does not replace God. It does not replace obedience. It does not make decisions for you. It can only sit beside the deeper work you are already doing, while you learn to notice, stay, receive, and ACT. The tool is not the source. Keep that distinction clear. A tool can support a routine, it can support a state, it can help you create space, but it cannot replace God, discernment, prayer, obedience, or the responsibility to decide what is true for your own life. That matters because no purchase can make you chosen. No audio can manufacture purpose. No product can guarantee that every decision becomes easy. If anything we discussed is useful, let it serve the deeper work. Notice, stay, receive, act. You may also be thinking something else. What if this is just a sales pitch? That is a fair question. Skepticism is not the enemy. Blind trust is not the goal. You should examine the offer, read the terms, consider the claims, and decide whether the tool fits the problem you actually want to solve. You do not need the genius switch to be loved by God. You do not need it to pray. You do not need it to have purpose. It is simply one optional resource for someone who wants a structured 8-minute practice aimed at supporting a clearer mental state. And if that is not what you need, do not force it. The central work of this message remains available to you. You can still pause before obeying distraction. You can still notice when familiarity becomes an exit. You can still take one honest inch instead of waiting for perfect certainty. Now picture what that looks like in ordinary life. You are sitting across from someone you love. Your phone is face down. They are talking, and for once you are not half listening while another argument, task, or fear keeps running in the background. You hear the whole sentence. You notice their face. You respond to what was actually said. Nothing supernatural has to happen for that moment to matter. Presence itself can change a relationship because attention tells another person, I am here. Picture the same quality of presence in your work. One task is open, 10 others are waiting, but they are not controlling the next 5 minutes. You finish what is in front of you, then you choose again. That kind of clarity is quiet, but it compounds. This is the version of receiving that matters to me here. Not chasing constant intensity, not waiting for a dramatic sign every morning. It is becoming less divided when something important asks for your attention. If the resource I described earlier feels relevant, the official offer is in the description and pinned comment. Examine it for yourself. Then return to the deeper question, because there is still one promise from the beginning we have not fully answered. Why is the 5th time different from the first 4? Not because heaven suddenly became impatient. Not because 5 is a magic number. Not because this is your last chance to get everything right. The difference is much simpler and much more powerful. The first 4 times, the urge appeared, and you followed it before you could see it. This time, someone is watching the urge from inside, and that changes the entire pattern. You are learning to separate an impulse from an instruction. You can feel distraction without obeying it. You can feel uncertainty without making uncertainty the final authority. That small separation is where agency begins to return. No tool can take the final step for you. The step remains yours, and that is exactly why the 5th knock is different. Now we can answer the question that has been open from the beginning. Why is the 5th time different? It is not because God has run out of patience. It is not because heaven only gives 5 chances. It is not because the number 5 carries a secret code you must fear missing. The 5th time is different because the observer has appeared. Before, the urge arrived and became action almost instantly. Distraction appeared, and you followed it. Doubt appeared, and you obeyed it. Familiarity appeared, and you left before asking whether the truth had reached your behavior. Now there is a space between the urge and the choice. You can see the pattern while it is happening. That means the pattern is no longer invisible. And once something becomes visible, you can respond instead of simply repeating it. This is where the words, "not this time," begin to mean something different. I do not need to claim that God literally spoke those words over this exact moment. You can speak them as a decision about how you will meet the next threshold. Not this time will distraction decide for me. Not this time will familiarity disguise itself as wisdom. Not this time will endless preparation replace participation. Not this time will I demand perfect certainty before taking one faithful step. These are not promises that fear will disappear. They are declarations about what fear gets to control. You can still feel hesitation. You can still have questions. But hesitation no longer has to become your identity. If it is safe, close your eyes for a moment. Picture 4 doors behind you. Do not turn them into monuments of regret. Let each door represent one moment when something mattered, but you withdrew before the moment became movement. See the first door. Maybe distraction closed it. See the second. Maybe exhaustion closed that one. See the third. Doubt may have stood there. See the fourth. Familiarity may have whispered that you already knew enough. Now, look forward. There is one door in front of you. It represents one current choice, one conversation, one application, one boundary, one page, one decision you already know deserves your attention. Put one hand over your chest. Slow your breathing. You do not need to manufacture an emotion. Just notice that you are here, and that being here gives you something the first 4 moments may not have had. Awareness. Choice. 1 inch of movement. Now ask yourself this. What is the smallest honest action I can take after this ends? Do not choose 10 actions. Choose 1. Make it small enough to complete, but real enough that your behavior can no longer pretend nothing changed. Maybe you send the message. Maybe you write the first paragraph. Maybe you schedule the appointment. Maybe you turn off 1 distraction and protect 20 minutes. The action is not sacred because it is dramatic. It matters because it crosses the threshold. The first 4 knocks showed you the pattern. The 5th does something else. It lets you meet the pattern while awake. And that is the real difference. You are no longer only the person experiencing the urge. You are the person noticing it, naming it, and choosing what comes next. Before this ends, I promised I would speak something over the version of you that stays. We are there now. Take a quiet moment now. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to force a feeling. You have already done something important by seeing the pattern, without turning it into shame. Be grateful for that awareness. Be grateful that what was automatic can now become visible. Be grateful that 1 missed moment does not have to define the next one. Awareness does not rewrite the past, but it can change the way you meet what comes next. Release the need for endless confirmation. Release the belief that every faithful step must feel certain. Release the shame attached to the times you hesitated. Release the idea that distraction is your identity rather than a pattern you can interrupt. You are allowed to move without knowing everything. You are allowed to learn while moving. You are allowed to pause, discern, and still choose. The goal was never perfect certainty. The goal was enough clarity to take the next honest step. So let these words become a declaration, not a prediction. I am present. I am receiving. I am discerning. I am moving. I do not need perfect certainty to take 1 faithful step. I am not defined by the moments I almost acted. I am not trapped by the doors I once walked away from. I can notice the urge to leave without obeying it. I can stay at the threshold long enough to see what is actually true. I release the need to collect 1 more sign before every decision. I release the habit of calling fear discernment when fear is only asking me to remain familiar. I release the comfort of endless preparation when the next step is already clear. I choose presence over fragmentation. I choose practice over familiarity. I choose movement over endless preparation. I choose to let what I know become visible in how I live. And when the old reflex returns, because patterns often return before they weaken, I will recognize it. I will not panic. I will not shame myself. I will pause for 10 seconds and ask what became uncomfortable just before I wanted to leave. Then I will choose 1 inch, 1 message, 1 page, 1 boundary, 1 decision, 1 small action that gives truth somewhere to land. This is the 5th knock. Not because a number makes this moment magical. It is the 5th knock because this time you are conscious enough to answer differently. This time the pattern does not get to hide behind distraction, exhaustion, doubt, or familiarity. So say it now with everything you understand. Not as a threat, not as a bargain, not as a promise that life will become easy. Say it as a boundary between the old reflex and the next choice. Not this time. Not this time will distraction decide for me. Not this time will familiarity end the lesson before it reaches my life. Not this time will preparation become a hiding place. Not this time will fear demand certainty that no human being can possess. I stay, I receive, I act. May what is true remain. May what is false fall away. May your attention return to what matters. May your next step become clear enough to take, and may you have the courage to take it without demanding that the whole road appear at once. You do not have to carry every tomorrow tonight. You only have to meet the next threshold awake. One breath, one honest choice, 1 inch forward. Amen.